I'll call the February 7th, 2024 Finance Committee to order at 6:07 PM. We have Corey Packard and myself here in the meeting room, and Steve Dollinger is remote. We've got a fairly short agenda this evening. Really, the primary thing on it was the first look at a preliminary review of the 2025 budget. I guess to start, I'd like to ask Corey, did you get a chance to look at it at all, or?
Yes,
Okay,
we're up to the version 1.1
okay,
and did a bunch of highlighting for you.
okay. And did you send it to me?
Yes, that would be, look at my emails now. You can get to the shared email from
Okay.
February 6th.
I'll get to that in a minute. Then I just want to know if you sent it out or if you had it on you to connect up or something, if you had your laptop. Let me start by making a few comments about the budget, if I could. I think it's important when you start looking at a budget that you don't immediately start trying to figure out what the budget is, what it means, what people are thinking. I used to, years ago, when I worked with budgets quite a lot, would often accuse people of negotiating with themselves, because somebody would submit a budget, and without that, whoever submitted the budget in the room, and I'll use the example of Parks and Rec, because they're outside working on their budget right now. We all would sit around and start trying to analyze what we think they're thinking and why they're asking for what they're asking. What I'd like to do tonight, Steve, if we can, is just kind of run through the data and see what's there, and not spend a lot of time discussing why the budget is what it is, but more just make sure we're all familiar with it. We've seen it. We know what it is. I don't know if both of you've seen it yet or not, but Maribel sent out earlier today a listing of the times that we agreed to for meetings.
Yeah, and we'll get to discuss with them later. Right?
That's where I'm going, is like,
Yeah.
this could become a very long meeting if we start trying to analyze each department now, and because none of those people are in the room with us.
You're right, and that's inappropriate. I agree.
We can
with you.
start saying, well, we think, the collector needs a bigger budget here. Well, if they asked for X, that's what they've asked for so far. We should not take it upon ourselves to start thinking they need X plus something or X minus something. We'll get to that point, but I just don't want to get there tonight. I'd like to just run through the budget quickly, make sure we've all seen it, see what comments you guys have, and then look at Corey's data. And beyond that, that's really all I had on the agenda. If there's any new business or old business that you two have, we can certainly address that. No, okay. So Steve, any comments or thoughts before we get going?
No, I have no comments or thoughts. Thank you for asking.
Okay, I'm going to plug in, tell me if it works properly.
We'll do.
Time and date if you're looking for the exact one.
25 at 6:15 with the master budget. Okay, Steve, I want to share my computer here. That's not the one I want to share, but that's just my notes. There we go. So we have all the budgets in the SharePoint site. Close some of these things down. And really, they're all in alphabetical order. So what I want to do is just scroll through them and see what you guys have to say about them. The first one up is the ambulance. You'll notice a few different colored areas. The green was part of the initial mail out, so that doesn't really mean anything new. I did go through them this morning and made some highlights and a few notes on things, just to remind me of stuff. But taking the ambulance as an example, this is kind of what I'm looking for tonight. I have nothing on this one that I see any reason to spend a lot of time discussing. We know it's a fee we're gonna have. Lucy, did this go up? Do we know? Is there any change in the ambulance? It's the same. Yeah.
Well, this is going to keep going up because they're in an encumbrance, right? Or not encumbrance. Aren't they in like not receivership? What is it, Rutland in? They had to go through an extension for all their services in their town budget. Is this why it's going up? Is my question. But again,
You talked about Rutland.
Yes, because we share
Yeah,
ambulance.
yeah,
with them.
okay. Yeah, again, but we can speculate on what that's gonna be, but we don't know that yet.
Understood, but we knew from last year that they had an STM because they had to increase. Be, they were underfunded, right? So, again, I'll shut up now.
No, that's good input. I'm just saying that I don't think we know yet if that's gonna happen again this year. Unless, again, the Board of Selectmen had any input from them, Lucy?
No, not yet.
So it's kind of premature to
It
say
is,
much,
it is going to go up a certain, probably no more than 3%.
no more than 3%.
And Lucy, so, do we get the amount of calls that were made in fiscal year 2023 before we look at that budget rate? Like, okay, so obviously I know that in 2022, we had a lot of calls. 2021 was a lot of calls, but like versus 21, 22, and 23, like I really want to look into that and see if it's kind of fair comparative to Hubbardston or Barry. Right?
Paul, you have
We-
I
we haven't gotten
think
anything
they,
on it.
they base a lot of their data on population, not so much, call number.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So because I thought, Paul, you had mentioned as previous chair, that a lot of I thought their number had to go to the fact of how many calls we were getting. And you had mentioned there was a specific incident where we kept getting call after call after call for somebody in previous years, and I thought that was part of the calculation. But if it's towards population, then that's a fair split, so.
Yeah, I don't know, Steve, if it is on population, I would agree that's fair because it's then allocated on an equitable basis to every town that's involved, so.
Agreed. I don't see any issue with that, but if
Let's,
it's based on numbers of calls, then obviously.
Let's move on to the Board of Assessors. They are asking for an increase. The total budget goes up by $2,027 right now before anything is added. The increase would be 5.8%. There's something going on that I believe we're just gonna keep an eye on right now, which is office supplies. If you'll note up here, I highlighted it kind of in an orange color. The Board of Selectmen is working through how they want office supplies handled within the entire town. You have a situation where some departments have a budget for office supplies, and other departments depend on the Board of Selectmen admin assistant to manage their office supplies. So she keeps an inventory, and then different departments keep their own inventory. And that's potential waste and duplication of what you have there. So they're looking at how to streamline that, make it more effective. And again, the assessor asked for a $1,200 budget when they had no budget before for office supplies. So I think, Lucy, you guys are addressing that, that whole concept.
We are.
And again, one of the reasons I think it's premature for us to start debating how much they need in office supplies, because we gotta wait till the whole thing gets put together. It's kind of hard to read this. It's not the biggest Zoom, but is anyone, either one of you have questions on it or comments?
Not yet.
I think you can shut the closed caption off if you want, if that's in your mind or not.
Where do you, oh, I know where the Zoom is, yeah, but it's gonna move me off the screen. I'm not sure how to shut the closed captioning
Steve
off.
could
You know?
probably tell.
Steve, do you know how to shut the closed captioning off in front of us?
Doing it now.
Because it's blocking it right in the middle of the projection.
Oh, understood. Doing it now.
Read the lines now.
It's off.
Colin, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
On the assessors.
Yep.
It may have changed. They used to print every 3 years. It was a requirement for the bylaw for the assessors. A printed copy of the assessments of all the property in town.
Mhm.
I don't see anything up there for,
I don't know if they're still required to do that. Do you, Lucy?
I haven't seen any.
I know they haven't done it, but as the bylaw changed to let them not have to do it. It was supposed to be published, I think it was on a 3-year thing. One's evaluations every 3 years.
Yes.
So when they, yeah, so it's be like a town report type.
So would they mail it out when they print it? Is that what the?
It was like the town report, they would just,
They may have put it on the final report, their annual report.
Because that goes out every year.
I haven't seen the
well, it
annual reports
would
for
be
this
if you
year.
wanted to see what your neighbor's assessment was.
Yeah,
That was the booklet they would put out.
I've never seen that for the town since I've been here.
I have old ones,
yeah,
you know, from back in the nineties and stuff. And
And
I
that was,
think I copied from online about 3 years ago, I think. I think it was all posted online.
okay, and that's a bylaw that we do that every 3 years? If you-
Well, the bylaw, the way he's telling you, that's the way the bylaw is written, and it's supposed to be printed.
Huh, okay, I'm not familiar with it. I have not seen that
I mean, you
information
would,
since I've been in town.
it didn't show in the printing, you know, each map
Yeah.
and plot, it just said, you know, Jane Doe
Street name probably.
street assessment acreage, you know, it was very an outline paragraph form, you know, the
Okay.
bigger the
I
property.
just made a note of it here. It's something we'd have to look into. I just don't know. It's not something I'm familiar with.
and we've got two brand new people in that
The
office
assessors
this
office.
year, so I don't know if they've done it yet.
I wanna say I haven't seen it since Kathy Usher was on the assessors. And then after that, I can't say. But I went on trying to look to see if maybe they were doing it electronically. And I really didn't see it in the format that would be easy for somebody to kind of have to go to the maps and the this and the that.
Now, here's the Board of Assessors evaluation budget. Which is the next slide. And it just shows it as expenses. It literally just says expenses, Mike, so I don't know if, you know, they're asking for 2,300 and 2,700, 5,080 total. But I don't know if any of that has to do with that printer or anything, so those are the questions we'll ask them when we see
I
them.
guess what I'm politely saying is I don't think they've done it. for a
Yeah,
long time.
for what you're saying, I get that impression too, I understand.
yeah.
But I just made a note of it, and they will be meeting with us later in the next couple of months to go over things like this. So I just, again, made a footnote and we'll ask them about it. And check the bylaws, because it's not something I'm familiar with.
I mean, as a compliment, I wish everyone asked questions so nicely.
Yes,
That's very impressive.
Well, I mean, I hope it's still in there in the bylaws, because that and the town report are kind of like the two printed things that everybody wants to.
I don't think the bylaws have been changed or reviewed
so
for a long
either.
time.
Well,
They're
I don't
setting
think
up a
they've ever
committee
been-
to look over the general bylaws
Oh, absolutely.
coming up.
Yeah, a lot of it's outdated and
It comes up on the bylaws.
it does.
it is it.
It appears to be there as a search it.
Well, I guess the key word is printing. And at that time, there were no computers, you know, so. Well, there were, but not like today.
Let's take a look at the Board of Health next. Board of Health actually has a $2,000 decrease in total. I had really no concerns with anything they had in here.
What was the money we just moved to them?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
It's not
Corey.
reflected in that.
No, that would have been, let's see, prior year encumbrances, let's see, special town meeting. Now, the last town meeting we have on this is 22, but that was just the one back in January here, so that's not listed yet. Do you recall anything, Lucy? For the
I
Board of
didn't hear
Health?
the question.
What was the Board of Health special article that we gave them additional money for in the January meeting? Corey says he thought there was something they got additional funding for.
They needed to add
Part-time.
to the salary for the
Was it the
person
number
they're
of
going
hours they
to
were
hire
increasing?
for their,
It was like from 2 hours to 3 hours. That was.
2 hours, 5, was it maybe? Or-
I think it was like 2 to 5 hours or something like that. It was a very small.
It was a small number. But again, this is kind of what I want to try to do tonight, is to look at this, and I don't see anything on the Board of Health budget that initially jumped out at me as a concern. Corey, I don't know if you can see anything up there or not that bothers you, but I mean, it's a $2,000 reduction. It's one of the very few that had a reduction, 17%. You know, that's nice. If you go back and look at the 3-year average for a lot of this, I think he probably did and realized he might have been over budgeting in some of these areas. You know, his 3-year spend has been averaging about 6,000, so he's still got some room. The Board of Health has turned funds back. I know they did last year. They had a pretty good turn back last year. I only went back 1 year and looked, but they're one of the departments that ran a surplus. Board of Selectmen other, which is really just the annual reports printing. There's a $200 increase, estimated printing cost. The only comment I had here, and we'll talk about, Lucy, just so you get a heads up on it, when you look at this department, this line item, for the last 3 years, you've never spent over 1,000. The average is 1,090. So saying we need 1,700, just that's the kind of stuff I said when we start looking at 3-year average.
Cost of paper, cost of printing, and if they're putting in colored photos.
Right, I understand all that, but last year it was 1,000, the year before it was 990, the year before it was 973. Is it really gonna go up to 1,700? From
I
now-
think-
from
And what
now-
is the cost, and what is the cost benefit to having something in-house to do it? Right, so if we're keep going out to these professionals that are gonna keep raising their prices because of inflation, comparative to having something in-house to print it out and mail
I
it.
don't think, this is the booklet that you put
This is
together.
a
Yeah,
book.
this is a book,
Oh,
Steve.
okay,
The annual
okay,
book,
all right.
We
that-
don't
You
create.
couldn't do
those.
that here. I don't think you could print it in-house. I think printing it out is fine and fair.
Okay.
Again, I'm just saying that, you know, for 3 years in a row, you've spent around $1,000. I agree there is inflation. It's not 70%. So it just caught my eye. Those are the kind of things that I would like
And
to.
I think the printer himself raised the price.
Okay, so you've got something to back it up. It's not just someone saying we want to raise the number.
Right,
Okay,
If I remember right, I think Maribel actually decreased the amount of books that she ordered to try and control the price
yes,
last year too, so.
she does.
but that's the kind of thing that I think we need to start looking at just as a town. I think we're, you know, we have a budgeting practice of whatever the budget was. That's what you live with, and if you don't spend it, it gets turned
Right,
back
and we,
to cash, and then the
and-
next year you live with it again. But at some point, you start budgeting for things you don't ever spend, and something else suffers because you don't increase that budget. And if you're gonna try to balance out to the 2.5% that we get from Prop 2.5,
Yeah.
you know, it's just something. to
one
think
of the questions I have though is, we only give those booklets out at the annual town meeting, so. And there seems to be a lot of booklets left over, right? So what is the average of, if we're looking to cut costs, like how many people are attending? Let me just go over those numbers.
Is that question? The other question I had when I think about it, Steve, is could that be online? And a lot of people might prefer an online version. And then you print a lot less.
I agree.
I mean,
You
anything
give
like
like,
that, I read online. I mean, I see with my tablet.
here.
You know, I haven't bought a book in a long time.
you're talking to the wrong person. I buy
I
so
know,
many.
I know. But I thought about that in the past when they've talked about printing that. It's like, okay, it's probably.
Well,
half the
let's say,
town
I
reads
mean,
online.
the last annual town meeting, how many people do we have? 100, maybe? So we print 120 books, maybe
100 to
110.
140, I think we order about 170 books, 175 books.
Maybe
At one
lower,
time, we
right?
were ordering more than that
Yeah.
even.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Right.
that's something we're gonna solve tonight. It's just the things that. you know,
Understood. Just a conversational.
So I just opened up the Board of Selectmen's main budget. Again, just looking at it as a starting point, I'd like you, Steve, and you, Corey, to go through each one of these and really look at them and study them a little bit. When we, again, I realize they just came out, so we just got it. But again, I went through and hit a couple of the things that were going up quite a little bit. I don't think we want to debate them tonight. I think we're going to meet with the Board of Selectmen and go over what they're asking for. And I think I understand most of it. I watched the video from your budget meeting, Lucy. And went through all that and heard all the explanations for what's going on here. But I think we need to do that as a group and provide what feedback we can, because this one is looking for 17% or $24,000 increase so far. And that's substantial. Now, in fairness to the Board of Selectmen, I know some of the things they're doing is they're moving some things around. Again, the office supplies is one of them. The Vitel phone charge is another one that they're taking back into the entire Board of Selectmen responsibility versus breaking it out to departments. So those are things that will all kind of become more visible as we work through this over the next couple of months. Steve, anything on this one jumps out at you other than the areas I highlighted?
No, obviously, we're trying to modernize, right? That's why IT services is high.
Yeah, and again, again, I do everything pretty much online. I believe very much it's what we should be doing.
It
The other
is.
part of it
It's,
is we have to decide what's nice to have and what's really gonna
no,
make
I
a difference
agree.
how we do
Well,
things.
agree. But like, remember, the best disinfectant is sunlight. Transparency is key, and everything that we're doing with regards to collaboration and video transparency is huge, right? And
Yes, no, it is. It is. But some of it, I really like SharePoint. I used it a lot before I retired, which is 6, 7 years ago now. I realize it's changed a lot. But we just started using it in the town. I'm gonna be really curious to see when we look back at SharePoint after the first year, because it tracks how much you use it, how much it's
Yes,
being
it does.
used. I mean,
Yes, it does.
Finance Committee's using it, Board of Selectmen is using it. Is anyone else actually gonna use it?
They're gonna have to start using it because that's the best way to get these things instead of manual paper, and it lessens the burden on our administrative assistant for the town.
I agree, but you having it is one thing, utilizing it is another, I think.
Understood.
And for the record, I side closer to Alan, but I agree with Steve. I think that while it's great we're sending out in Excel all the files, I think, Steve, we do need to remember that a lot of the departments still print out when we send them, hand fill it in and send us back a JPEG from their cell phone.
Well, a lot of the departments have town computers and
Would we say a lot?
some have nothing,
Yeah, true.
which would be me.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, I just wanted
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
to say that I was somewhere in the middle ground between you two on that one.
No,
I actually, I believe
agree.
everything should be online and through the internet. I believe in that. It just, you can't go from point A to point Z. There's a lot of steps in between to get people to where they're utilizing it. I mean, it's a lot to put on people that are mostly volunteers. Building and zoning enforcement, there's really nothing here that should catch anyone's eye. It's a $50 increase for the year. I have no comments here unless one of you do.
None for me.
Not for me.
Cemetery Commission has a $3,100 increase. And that's, I think, at the special town meeting in fiscal year 23, we had to provide some additional funds, 2,100 to the Cemetery Commission. And they're really just budgeting for that, is how I looked at it, Lucy. Is that a fair statement? Because the increase is 3,100 and the fiscal year 23 article was for 2,100. So it's a bit of an increase over that, but I'm thinking that's probably what most of it is. It's just that became part of the budget going forward because they needed more funds to cover. They were short, if I remember.
They were.
Yeah.
Because of the weather, the way it was that year, so we ended up with more mowing
Yeah.
that year. So we have to increase this year
Yeah,
to cover
no.
it for next year, so we don't have an overage again.
I mean, it is a 30% increase on one side, so that's a big increase, but it's a $3,000 increase.
Would fuel be built into that?
I don't know. Is fuel built into that anywhere, Lucy? And I don't know how
It's what
fuel for any reason.
the gentleman brings his own mower and he pays for his own gas.
His rate must reflect the increase in fuel, so it's passed along.
And I'm not sure which one of the Board of Selectmen meetings, Corey, but recently I know there was a discussion about the possibility of, since we're getting a new highway super later this year, after Kevin retires, that there may be an opportunity to expand the highway's role in helping take care of the cemeteries. Instead of having someone outside do it, maybe, is there a scheduling change that could be made? I think you guys were talking, I remember it came up in one of your meetings.
It comes up quite often.
Okay, so it's come up a few times. Just the idea.
Over the years, yes,
Yeah,
it has.
could we do that? I mean, could you have the highway department do the mowing and then just hire someone to do the edging around the gravestones and everything? I mean, there's a lot of things I know you've talked about. So
Right.
there may be more changes here in the next few months.
The mowing is the easy part, the trimming is the more difficult part, and doing any brush that needs to be cut down and like that, that adds to it. There are 5 cemeteries that need to be done, so each one takes a day. So you're looking how many days your highway department will be out just doing cemeteries.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a burden for them, but maybe there's.
But we would need, so we would need to incorporate though the equipment purchase if they were supposed to do that, correct?
They got one new lawnmower this year.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I think they might be set enough to be able to do the rows.
And they certainly have edging equipment, but I don't know how much they have.
Yeah, but like for a cemetery, you'd need a 0 turn or at least a Cub Cadet, a riding mower, right? I mean,
But that's what they
Yeah.
use on their general lawns anyway.
okay, so they are using a riding mower.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they got the.
Yes,
gear,
they are.
yeah.
Okay, okay, all right, because I'm not talking about some like Kubota type. That's, all right, I apologize if I was misunderstood, so
No,
sorry about that.
they just
Nope.
got a new one this year too, so.
Well, the other thing, too,
Wonderful.
down the road, when Bernie decides he's all done mowing, Lynch there.
Yeah.
You have the option of going with a commercial company,
Yes, you could.
but those costs, I think, are gonna be
They're probably higher than Ernie's.
way
They,
higher.
the.
Right, but
The cheapest
Right.
one I got, when I went out for prices, first of all, I had several that said, no, they don't want anything to do with the cemeteries. Was, he said, if I have to, and he says, I really don't want it, but it would be at least 22,000.
and this is where we try to ask the townsfolk, because I know there's a lot of people in town or the surrounding towns that have small businesses that would possibly want to do it, and I know a couple. We could ask them as well.
Okay, well, let's.
I have asked some of them. So you might want to check with them as to whether or not I contacted them.
Yeah.
But it was doing this, the headstones was the problem for all of them.
And was it because of insurance purposes or like damage to a headstone, like
Damage
liability?
and just the time it takes to go around them, making sure they look neat.
Understood. Thank you very much, Lucy.
What you say, Mike? You have another comment?
I think we've kind of gotten away with murder for years on what we've been paying.
With Ernie again.
with Aaron.
He's
He's been very good to.
Yeah, I agree. No.
Uh,
Let's keep this moving along. Again, I don't think we're gonna solve these problems tonight. I just wanna make sure everyone's thinking about them. CMRPC. So I don't know what that stands for.
Central Mass Regional Planning
I
Commission.
kept looking and said, what the heck? I knew, someone told me once before, Paul. It's probably you. But
An excellent resource for the town.
yeah, no, it's not going up. It's going up $27. I mean, it's a non-event as far as I'm concerned, unless you guys have any questions on it. I kept looking at it saying, what did that mean?
I think that's just the membership fee, isn't it? Lucy?
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Conservation Committee, again, another one with no change, level funded. So unless someone has a comment, I'm just gonna go right by it. Council on Aging is going to be interesting this year. They have a new management group in place for the first time since I've been in the town. And they have a number of increases that we need to look at. They've added a few items, line items that weren't there in the past, software charges and professional memberships totaling 1,500. Total increase is 26% so far. Part of that does include a well, let's see, is that correct? a 21% salary increase. So I think, Lucy, the Board of Selectmen is backing out all the salary increases, right? And then you're gonna do a salary review.
Salaries will come later,
So we'll back that out to level funded in the master spreadsheet
right?
as we go forward. We haven't done that yet. And then we'll have to see what the salary increases are. I mean,
Right.
I think that's, I think that's what I heard you guys all say last night, or the night, or the board, the one I recorded, the recording one I listened to, that you were gonna do a
Right.
salary
These,
review.
these sheets do not include anything for salaries.
It's been approved by the Board of Selectmen. Most departments put a request in for salary changes. They did. Well, you can see them as we go through this. This
I
is-
don't think most of them did, but some, there were a few that did, even though they requested not to put
Yeah.
any in.
I'll rephrase that. All of the significant ones, except for the library, did. Actually, the fire department did not, but the police did, the highway did, council on aging did. All the bigger ones seem to have put in salary increases. And the smaller ones did not, for whatever reason. So anyway, the council on aging is going to have a meeting with us, with the Board of Selectmen, Corey and Steve. We've already agreed to that. I think the date was in March. Paul, I sent you an email with the dates, you and Claire, just so you'd have it. I wasn't quite sure who was
Well,
doing
one
it.
of the things, there's a little nervousness because the governor has, like I say, cut, $275 million out of the state budget. And the first thing that she was showing that was gonna be, reduced was aid to the various councils of aging,
I saw
okay?
that too, yeah.
Some of these items quite possibly will be paid for out of the, I can't think of the
The formula
full
grant,
title of the grant, but
the formula grant,
the formula grant, but they want to be sure that their basic operations are still covered. And if they can reduce their expenses by, spending out of the formula grant, they will, so quite possibly some of this money will get turned back in at the end of the year. But again, because of the consideration of possible reductions from the state, that's why they've added the line item for like, the maintenance of the My Senior Center software
their software and professional
in their
memberships.
memberships.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I understand that. I talked to.
So I mean,
Barbara
that's
about it
explaining
also.
why some of the things have been raised.
I think what it's gonna come down to, it's really, again, why I'm trying not to spend a lot of time debating each one of these tonight is it's gotta all be put together.
Yep.
We've gotta get the salary number in. I mean, if we assume there's a 2 to 4% salary increase, the town is now looking at a 12 or 13% increase in the budget as it sits. All I can do is all the time, you were in the role of chairman, and since I've been in the committee with you for, this is my 6th town meeting we're starting to work on. We've never been anywhere near double digits for the increase that the town's had. So it's just, how's that gonna work? Is the town
I
gonna
know,
accept
and
that?
a
It's a lot of money.
big overview is because a lot of the positions are being turned over to full-time positions. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
about possibly the library director is one position that's gonna go to
Full-time
enough
or
hours where
29
they're gonna have
hours.
to
yeah.
provide benefits. We added a full-time police chief, which definitely is necessary, okay? We added a full-time patrolman. We've got a new, highway superintendent in the works, which depending on how the salary is negotiated, may be an increase. I know the Board of Selectmen would love to have a administrative position added, for day-to-day operations of the town. So, I mean, it seems like growth is coming like a lot faster than what the town can absorb.
And the challenge there is, Paul, is the growth is coming from a little bit of population growth,
Yes,
but not much of it's coming from population growth. Most of it's coming from decisions to have things change. I don't know how else to put it. I mean,
yes,
we've made a conscious decision that because it's difficult to find the quality of part-time help that you want, that you get a full-time police chief and you get a full-time police officer. You can't find a part-time librarian nowadays. Back when they got Sam, you were able to. So things are changing. The question and the challenge I see, again, I go back to last year's meeting, is I'm the guy that stood up there and said, we can't keep having these kind of increases to the school And now we're talking about doing the exact same thing a year ago that we said was unacceptable. And so I'm wondering how the town reacts when we get up there this year and say, oh, we're recommending a 15% increase for the town and a 3% increase
So-
for the school.
I'm gonna explain this to our townspeople. We have an encumbrance of being a sanctuary state with our community housing mass amounts of illegal immigrants, which is taking away our budget from different things. Remember, we set up the Quabbin. Oh, we're gonna give buybacks to everybody over the summer, and then after the summer, we have this influx of migrants where we're taking down centers for community and everything else. I don't look. I don't like the situation. Nobody does, but I don't really want to take away from my seniors, And to be honest with you, and Paul has talked about this in depth. Either you're going to write to your senators and your representatives and say this is ridiculous, or we're going to have to pay something for that, right? And I'm not saying that everybody needs to pay more taxes, but like something's going to be cut, right? And the school district thing, I guarantee you, I don't know if you've listened to any of their conversations, going up again for what?
Yeah, they're adding
what?
about $800,000.
Oh, Jesus. It's unbelievable.
All right, again,
After-
let's try not to get hung up on
Sorry.
trying to debate each one of
Sorry.
these tonight. Let's move
Understood,
along and-
understood,
because we don't have
understood.
any of the answers. We're trying to create the answers. That's the.
No,
the-
but I just want to give context. Like, this isn't an OCAM problem. This is a state problem and a country problem, right? And that's all I'm going to say. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, but again, points you're making, Steve, are all good. And that's what I'm saying. I think as we go through these meetings, I think we can help have a more effective meeting if we don't keep going after the things that we can't do anything about here tonight. These are things that.
Understood.
I agree with what you're saying,
Understood.
but we're not gonna, telling everyone here that probably agrees with what you're saying, isn't going to make anything happen.
I just want to make sure that I understood Paul's comments. Paul, you're talking about like bureaucracy creep or bureaucracy growth, not population growth in the town. You're saying like, the town clerk was part-time before and we may need a full-time going forward. Where the board of selectmen, admin may have been part-time in the past and a few years may need to be full-time. Was that what you were responding to? Or
It
were
is,
you talking
but
about population?
The growth of the town administration, okay,
To be honest,
is going faster than what we can grow revenue,
Yes, okay.
basically.
I
So,
want to
I mean, what the committee is doing right now is good because you're putting together a basic picture of projected expense. And then when you get the basic picture of projected revenue, that's when everybody's gonna come together to the table and
we should have the revenue forecast finished tomorrow.
I
Yeah,
think kind of what Paul's saying is we've reached a point where the volunteer part of it and willing to work for not that much, but to be able to get that qualified person for the town clerk. The only way you're gonna get them is if you offer them a full-time position
Or
with the benefits,
significantly
because
more
nobody's
than you're
gonna
getting.
wanna do it.
Yeah.
It's really, I think, where a lot of the stuff is going on right now.
We're hitting the apex. That's pretty much what we're saying, right? Like the mountain we reached the top of the mountain. So it sucks, but
Let's move on to the finance committee's budget. You guys should all see this one at once. I have no comments. It's going down by 1%. No really big changes. I have no comments unless one of you does.
No comments.
none here.
Lucy, anything you look? No? Okay.
No.
Okay. Fire department. Other one, yeah, the fire department was the one that did not put in any salary increases, Lucy.
Right.
They level funded. There's a lot going on in the fire department. Whoops. And he put a lot of good explanations so you can kind of read through them and see what they are. But the net impact is, I 9% increase or $12,000. I've talked with Tim on some of these items previously, just up at the fire station and a couple things. He's got a good explanation for all of it, so I think the right approach is to wait till we meet with him and let him explain why he needs what he needs. Again, I didn't see anything that seemed unreasonable or new to me. It was just things are getting more expensive for them to operate. Steve?
And he's got good growth in his personnel too.
He's got good, he's got.
Yeah,
It-
look, ma'am, you need fire, you need,
The number
you need folks to fight,
now
yeah.
too, but he's
Like,
got
if-
a few grants that.
Steve, hang on a second.
He's had
Yes, ma'am.
a few grants in the last couple of days too.
Okay. What were you saying, Steve? You
Yeah.
and Lucy were talking at the same time. You probably couldn't hear it.
Yeah, no, I heard what she's saying, but like firefighting supplies, to get bigger departments, need more essentials. Look, guys, you wanna fight fires, you need the right people to do it and the right equipment to do it. That's all I have to say.
Moving on to highway. Highway did put in for a salary increase of 13,000, 17%. I'm not sure what that's based on since Kevin's leaving, if he's expecting that's what it's gonna cost to replace him. I can't answer that. I don't know if you know.
The ad is going into the paper for something like 72,000 to 78,000.
Can I make a comment to think about? I thought about this last night, I'm sorry, Monday night in the meeting, but I didn't want to interrupt when you guys were going through some of the stuff. When you look at the library, when you look at the highway, where you're looking at bringing someone in, whatever you set the budget at will become the floor for that person's salary. If you set it at 90,000, nobody's gonna come in and tell you they want 88.
Right,
So whatever's in the budget, doesn't matter what, because it's all public record, they can go out and look at it.
right,
Once you set a budget and say it's 90,000, but we're gonna advertise it at 72, well, anyone that's, if they aren't smart enough to go and look to see what you budgeted for that job, you probably don't want them. I mean, that's what it would come down to in my book, if they didn't think of that. So I think whatever you put in the budget for the library, for here, the Board of Selectmen will find that that's the number they're gonna build up on, not go down from. So that's just something to keep in mind. I mean, it's just the way most people think. If they,
Well, one way around that, okay,
Yeah.
is if you did level fund the salary lines, you're generally gonna come back halfway through the year for a second town meeting.
exactly,
And at that point, you can raise it to where you are, whatever you negotiated, but you still have enough money in the bank
right.
for the
for
first
whatever
half of the year.
salary you negotiate to handle, you know?
That's a good point. No, I agree. I would agree. That's a good way to handle it.
On this particular department, and I raised the issue 30 years ago. At the end of the year, there's a plethora of line item transfers from tires and tubes, from plow blades
Yep.
to this, to that.
I've
to
seen
that.
them.
And at the time, I wanted to track all that to see what the real numbers really are, because that money is going into different line items,
Mhm.
which are maybe office supplies or to something else. So it's never really a true reflection of what the highway department is spending. And so every year, all the line item transfers are piled up, they're put in a folder and they go up in the attic from
No, That's a good
from
point.
my
Yeah,
observation.
yeah.
And that budget has not been a true reflection of that department since I was on the board.
And I'm hopeful that when we have a new superintendent, there'll be a different view of the budget maybe. You know, because one thing that I think happens, Mike, sometimes is if there's money there to be spent, some people say, okay, I spent all of my budget for whatever it might be, plows that you just referenced. But I didn't spend all my money over in column X that was for something else. But I want something over here, so I'm just gonna store it, buy it and put it in storage somewhere until I need it, because I may need it someday. So you
But-
see a lot of that in,
This
I think, in
format
budgets.
goes back 50 years, when they used to fight over pennies at the town meeting. And so over the years, West Dwelly developed all these different things, and he was very good at it. And he didn't,
Balance. It,
so he would, if he didn't buy new tires, that would get turned back. But it became, well, we're gonna move this here, we're gonna move this here. And, but there's never been any, that I've ever seen, any true accounting of what each line item is really spending. Because nobody's ever taken the time to track, okay, where did we move all the money? I mean, yeah, whatever money's left goes back to the general fund.
Mhm.
But we don't know what we actually spent for plow blades.
Yeah.
Because we moved money out. Did we spend anything? Maybe not.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, I can't, I've not
But
seen
because
that.
that's one of the bigger departments, you know, it's probably the most problematic.
Actually, Suzanne Shea, over the past couple of years, even though she's not on the finance committee now, literally was tracking all of the invoices. And she was flagging line items that had, you know, surplus funds in it. And I think she put a ceiling of like any increase or decrease of 10% or more, she flagged
Yeah, no, I
for the
work with
finance
the
committee
folks
to look
And
at.
it's not that anything is nefarious, it's that
you don't know the real cost of that department.
the line item that should really have that money just gets level funded again the next
Right.
year.
And then the next year,
And
they
then
move
we
it
move
again,
on.
yeah,
Instead of finding out
and,
where we're really using the money, reducing one, adding it here, removing it there, adding to this one.
and part of that challenge there is the state guidelines encourage that almost. You know, that you can move, I mean, there's a, what is it, 6 weeks, is it 6 weeks?
Yeah, the last
The last
6
6
weeks of the.
They can move stuff
fiscal year.
around, that's right in the state regulations, so it's allowed by the state, it's allowed by statute. And I think it's become, I don't know what the word would be, inbred within the system, probably not just for the town of Ocam, but for a lot of towns.
That budget right there is really, that's the department's budget.
Mhm.
The line item part of it is more of an accounting thing for the town of Ocam to keep track of it, instead of just having a blanket number. They break it out to keep track of it. But in reality, you can transfer from this one to that one. Obviously, the Board of Selectmen's got to say, yeah, okay, good, or no, you're not gonna do that. But my experience was a lot of times it would be after the fact.
Yeah, it could very well be.
Was your name, was it Mike?
Yeah.
So just make sure I'm capturing,
Likes the tree ward.
I want to make sure I'm capturing what he's saying correctly. And so jump in and correct me. It sounds like Mike's saying you budget $2,000 every year for plows, but every year you're moving money in and out of it. And so one year you actually spend $3,000 on plows. One year you spend 0. One year you spend
Well,
1,000.
the town, let's say
And
the
you
town
never,
is
you never
allowing
know.
$2,000 for blades, they wear out. But let's say you changed them all last year.
So am I capturing that
this year-
correctly?
If they wear them down, you're just gonna flip them over, you might not need any blades.
So I'm capturing what you're saying correctly.
So
We just
there's
don't know
money
the
to
true number.
move to, say the gasoline or the diesel account, because you're running short or something.
I feel like that might be a problem across all town budgets.
That's what the way
Well,
the structure is set up, it's probably a problem across most towns.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, I hate to say it, but it's allowed by statute within the state of Massachusetts that you can transfer funds like that. And anyone that, I don't want to call it, they're not game playing, they could be, but I don't think most people think of it that way. They think of it, I need plow blades, that's what we keep using an example, and I don't need uniforms, or this year I need uniforms and the plow blade's great, we had no snow.
Right.
So I'm gonna buy uniforms with
Yeah,
plow
I mean,
blade
I
money.
think
mean,
one year I took a couple of $100 from the police detail line item, and I moved it to the cutting, because we ended up being over by an hour on one day we were cutting, and I was cutting it that close, you know, to
Yeah.
get a tree down or something.
But it does create confusion in some gray area within the,
But as the
how the
department
process-
gets bigger, with more line items, then, you know,
Yeah.
there should be a mechanism to find out what really those true numbers are.
yeah, and.
So that you guys can say, okay, I mean, pick a poison in any one of those and say, okay, well, you know, building maintenance or, you know, where is it really? You know,
And Paul,
And that would be an easy way to
we
do
were
it.
trying to find a way to track that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something that was being shared out, it was just within the finance committee, but
Yeah.
Suzanne had started doing that, but she's had some personal issues and resigned last summer.
Yeah.
And Corey started to get up to speed on taking over all the spreadsheets and everything and starting to do that, but that's what you're describing, it would be a nice to have knowledge, but if you think about it, that's a monumental task of anything the number of hours you'd have to do to track that. Suzanne's an accountant, she loved doing it,
Well,
Yeah.
it almost
and it's all
feels,
volunteer.
it almost feels like the accountant would be tracking invoice by invoice. So in 2024, you buy no plow blades because you didn't plow. In 2023, shouldn't the town accountant have those invoices of how many you bought?
If we had a town accountant, they probably could get that, but we have a contract agent that's only gonna do what you ask them to do.
Right.
They're not gonna go out and create.
So
work.
that's what
see,
I'm
it isn't even a matter of you have an invoice for buying or not buying a plow blade. You didn't use the money, but you ran short in another line item, so you went to the Board of Selectmen and asked for a transfer to push some of that money. I mean, as Charles Van Schoik used to say, he was financing on the Board of Selectmen with me. That's your whole budget. And in reality, you can,
Yeah, and I think the
Spend.
bigger, I'll understand that, I mean, it's how the system,
yeah,
the system's almost designed to work that way.
Yeah.
I mean, again, by the state statute that lets you do that transferring, that's what towns do to make sure they get what they think they need
yeah,
within the department.
I guess my only point is it's gotta be done one time. To look at all those line item transfers,
Some departments do it all the time, is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
to set that line item account. As a new base point. Going forward,
And
and then. Tighten up the rules as far as managing the departments. To say, look, we're not gonna do any transfers, make sure you have what you need in each account. And
really, Mike, maybe it's the way I look at it, maybe it's too simple. But it has what I thought about when I look at some of these budgets, and highway's one that I thought of that way, because they do move it around, probably the most of any department.
well,
It's, to me,
it's the most dynamic.
to me, it's the total budget that the finance, in my opinion, is most worried about. You know, I don't think I'm not too concerned if the Board of Selectmen spends X amount on office supplies and Y amount on the phone, as long as they only spend the money that we have for that, and the Board of Selectmen is a bad example, because they get to make the decisions mostly, but I'm just saying that I don't get too hung up on what's done within the budget. It's more how close you come to spending your budget, how much they go over. One of the things that troubles me is when you see department after department that every year turn back 12, 15, 20% of their money. And the one we just went through, Lucy, was,
I guess that's a better way of saying what I'm trying to say.
yeah,
is that
I think we're saying the same thing in a different way.
Until you actually figure out what they really need. And what they're actually really spending, you can't get a handle on that.
Mhm.
That turning back the 12,000, because if the department turns back that kind of money. That's money, like you were saying earlier, that could use for somebody that we told no.
Correct. That's what I worry about when I
Or
see
we
the
could
big
use to
number.
reduce the tax rate, or we could,
It's when you see that bottom total number change that I've been trying to focus on it. Because I don't have the knowledge or the expertise. I don't think anyone on the finance committee would say they do, to tell the highway department how they should budget by line item, or tell the police or the fire department how they should budget by line item. But I can look at it and say, you know what? You spent $130,000 last year, and this year you want to spend $170,000.
Well, technically, the finance committee and the board of selectmen get the full budget to expense report monthly.
Mhm.
At least that's the way it was supposed to work. I mean, I don't know how it's doing with the new accountant.
No, we get it every month. She's very good.
That's an early forecast. If you're watching it month by month of how you're doing expending out of each individual line item. So technically, you really, you're
It's there.
getting a report
It's
that'll
there.
tell you if, there's an account that has a big surplus in it. Or if, there's an expense that's being expended before, a line item is being expended before it's gonna
Well, if you go back
continue with its life and it's gonna need to have an infusion.
for the last year or two, Paul, one of the things we've been doing is, I mean, Lucy, you've seen it sometimes, that we've been going through as the finance committee, and we've been providing a list of here's the 25 line items that are running over more than, what did I use the last time? We did it back in November was the last one. You probably just did it on the new
It's in
report.
this, it's in this spreadsheet.
Yeah,
It's
we
about
probably won't
10.
get to that
I think
tonight.
we looked at like 10%.
And then I think the accounting
there.
firm, okay, when they're gonna do line item transfers, requires the finance committee and the board of selectmen to sign it.
Yes,
So I mean,
but,
both administrative functions are notified and they sign off on it before it can happen, so.
yeah, no, that's a good point.
I just want to make
You
sure
are aware of
Mike
it
knows that
happening.
we hear what he's saying. And we all agree, it's a valid point, and I think it comes down to how much manpower we have and what you put on the department head. And I don't think we're solving it tonight, if you want to.
Yeah, let's move on. I just pulled up the Historical Society. I've got no issues with the budget. It's level funded.
Yes.
Same.
I mean, I said, that was a good discussion. I think we've got to figure some of that out, but again, it's how much you put into it. And Paul, I think you made the right, this thing? The right point. There's, a lot of that data is there. I want that open. Library is going to have some increases. They actually submitted their budget with no salary numbers, so I plugged those in. That's why it's in orange, just to, I level funded them. We are going to face, Steve, I don't know, were you online for the Board of Selectmen's meeting Monday?
Yeah, I listened to all of it.
Okay, so you heard the discussion about when Sam was speaking and
Oh,
she
yeah.
basically said
Oh, yeah.
they can't get anyone to apply for the job that has the qualifications they're looking for. And they really want to go out and use 29 hours full, would be the total hours the library is open for one person. So again, we're not gonna solve it here, but there's probably going to be a request for, I guess I'll say significant is how I took it, increase in what we're gonna have to pay the director of the library. There was some discussion about reducing part-time hours to a certain level, but you then have the challenge of making sure we have two people on duty all the time. So it's gonna be a balancing act, but they are looking at moving in that direction, I believe, from what I
Yes,
I mean, there's no other options, what it seems like.
there isn't.
So that'll be an increase, and again, right now, it's only a 2% increase, but it's probably gonna be significantly more than that for the library. Other than that, they pretty much level funded everything.
Lucy, are we all set with their well issues and elevator issues?
Not yet.
Okay.
They're supposed to be coming back shortly.
Okay. Do we need to incorporate any of those numbers into their budget?
I don't know if they put anything in here, but they had a number.
They did not put anything new in for that. I think wasn't ARPA gonna cover some of that we were saying, or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a very wide range between 6,000 to 13,000 they were looking at.
they're working on it. Yeah, it's been, I think, very slow for the library for various reasons. Some with the contractor, and then I think it's like everyone else, everyone is busy, and so it takes some time for them to get the communication going. I think Sam said that they hope to have the well done by, was it May? She said something last
Yeah.
night or the night before. She had a timeline that she thinks they're working towards.
'Cause they'll be coming back to work on it some more and get
Yeah.
it finished.
I just want to make sure the costs
Hopefully.
were
That's
discussed.
Yeah, and that would be something, Corey, that most likely would be an article for the town meeting in June.
Okay.
I know you're looking, was it June 12th? You said you're looking at it before June
I'm
12th?
looking at June 11th, which is a Monday, which would be a regular Board of Selectmen meeting, or June 12th, but somewhere in there. If we can do it earlier, that would be fine.
But I think that's the kind of charge, Corey, that you would just take to the town as an article and say, we need $18,000 to pay for this
I only
unexpected
bring
expense.
it up because I don't see a building maintenance or repairs
Yeah.
line item for them,
No, they do not.
so.
You're correct.
Well, just some side note, when Brad was on the board, I showed him the roof over there. And there's a lot of slates coming loose again.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody's kind of been. But it is going to become an issue, and I hope we get on it before we do have a leak and we do damage all that work that was done in the ceilings, et cetera, et
It's the
cetera.
nicest building in town right now, so it'd be nice to keep it that way.
Yeah. I have mentioned that about 3 times.
Yeah, well,
that-
you and I
We
have
have
talked
to
about
look
it
at
several
that.
times,
And
but
also 2 of their windows have to be done.
Yeah.
So there are other monies
but
needed.
that will be a big capital expenditure to do that roof. Just because of the shape of it, whatever I'm sure we could probably go with a new
Yeah.
style
Yeah,
thing
but still
in the modern age, but it's still gonna be,
expensive, is what you're saying.
I wish we could start saving for it now, but I know Paul's
Well,
pointed out we can't. do
capital
that always.
stabilization, that's what it's for.
yeah.
Yeah, we do have some money in that.
Yeah, I mean, capital stabilization has 370,000 in it. In general has 609 prior to the January town meeting. We put another 175 away then. So you've got over $1 million sitting there in stabilization. And Paul made the point to Aaron the other night. I remember you said to him, we really need to start spending money because it's getting too big. So, that's what it's there for. It's things like so what I think it's there for is things like the library roof and
Right.
those type of items. But the town has to vote to take the money out of stabilization at the town meeting.
Well, I guess the only point of my comment was it needs to start showing
Moving
as a
up.
blip on the radar instead of, well, and then there's this whole building conversation too, but not tonight.
Yeah, and that's, I think with, Sam was a phenomenal librarian, I thought.
Yeah.
I'm not sure those are the kind of things she worried about.
That's
As much.
that's up to the Board of Trustees.
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
that's what I'm
But
saying.
they're in charge of that building
Yes, it just
and
doesn't
all
seem
its
to come forward.
repairs.
Yeah.
It doesn't come forward from them. They don't bring any of that stuff forward. And you don't see it. I mean, we hear about it, I hear you talk about it more than I've heard them talk about it in
Yeah,
6 years that I've
And
been on
they
the
don't-
finance committee.
they don't write a final report for our report book anymore. Sam has to put it together for them. They don't do it.
Well, let's move on to municipal building, level funded. I've got no comments. I'm sure we can debate electric and heat costs and everything else for a long time, but
Yeah. I'm good.
it is what it is. At this point, I think last year, if I recall, there was a lot of concern about not having enough in diesel and enough in gasoline and some of those things because the price has gone up so much. They're still higher than they were 3 or 4 years ago, but they're down $2 from where they were per gallon when we were doing this last year. So the budget is looking pretty good. If you look at the building heat, we put in, 25,000 in the budget and they spent 1,600 of it through November. I realize that was just the start of the winter, but I don't
But
think
you
we're
also
gonna
have
problem.
fuel and snow and ice budget too, so.
Right, but that's for the highway. That's a separate one. Is that what you mean? The snow and ice isn't in this one. It's in highway, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same departments using this fuel that's using it on snow and ice. so-
But they've got, don't they have a line item for diesel and snow and ice?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right, okay. That's what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay. I didn't hear what you said, I'm sorry. Police department dog officer is basically level funded, if I recall. Yeah, 3% increase, $230 for expenses, so unless you've got I see no reason to meet with the dog officer or talk about that. Police department regular budget. A little bit. This is gonna be an interesting one, in my opinion, that we're gonna have to deal with.
Could you double click column P to widen that? Just, I want to make sure we're not missing any of the comments.
I hate this new computer. I absolutely hate it. Touch pad is so hard. I mean, you really press hard to make anything happen. Yeah, he pretty much, if you scroll down this, we will in a second, Corey, he either increase everything 5% or 10%, pretty much. So, I'm assuming based on inflation and cost of living type adjustment. Where I see the issue that jumped out at me, is looking for a $34,000 increase in part-time officers' salaries, or a 63% increase over what was budgeted this year.
Will that cover the additional monies from the special town meeting?
I don't know what that means.
Wasn't he underfunded? And so with the special.
Well, no,
town
he was
meeting-
underfunded by $6,000.
Okay,
He's now saying he needs $34,000
so
more.
is that additional 28?
I haven't done it properly, something like that.
Okay.
I haven't gotten into that part yet, because I just want us to be aware of this tonight. What troubles me is when he went to the Board of Selectmen and I agreed that he should be full-time. I think we all did at that time. The intent was to cut part-time to make up much of his salary. And if I remember what he cut to make up the salary was somewhere around 27 to 28,000, somewhere in that range. So basically, he cut it to get to the point where he could fund the full-time salary. And now he's coming back this year, 1 year later, and asking for all the part-time money back. And I think when you do the math, it balances out pretty close to the same total number for full-time salary and part-time salary. But now he's going back to the old part-time salary. So I don't know where the Board of Selectmen came down on that, Lucy, and we don't have to debate it tonight, but it looks like that's basically what's happened. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, he's trying to
Yeah,
get,
until we hear from him when he comes and explains everything.
we can talk to it at that point in time. The rest of them, Corey, to answer your question, I'll scroll down through these. If you can read them up there, if you want, you can look here. Yeah, you can see most everything. He's either got a 5% increase, a 10% increase. He has a couple of items that he noted. Physicals, he's cutting in half because he doesn't have as many officers. So bottom line is he's looking for a 13% increases, which is what I highlighted in orange. And again, I'm not gonna say the town doesn't have the money, because the money is in stabilization. I mean, we've got a couple $100,000 in free cash. And then you'd have to go to stabilization, but I just worry we're going very fast to start spending. You know, when you start increasing the town budget in double digits, for me, that's a concern. It just is. I mean, you can do it this year, and you can do it next year, but once you get in the habit of doing that, it becomes what you do. And people expect it, and you start doing a 7 or 8% salary increase each year, that becomes what's expected next year. So again, I just think these are things we need to be aware of. I don't think we can, as Lucy said, solve any of these or discuss them at length until we have the people with us. Streetlights was basically local funded, if I recall. Town accountant was level funded, if I recall. Let's see, yeah, that was level funded, 73,000, and that's really the outside accountant work primarily. Town clerk's budget is pretty much the salary part and everything, what I should say, the big increase that we saw here was in the
Isn't that based on the,
town clerk salary.
isn't that based on the 2023 person though? Are we expecting
Yeah,
double that?
I have no idea what this number is based on, Corey. The number that was plugged in by the town clerk is 15,000 going from 9,000.
Okay.
But again, the Board of Selectmen is going to address all the salaries. This is another one where, you know, we asked in the instructions not to do the salary, but again, a lot of the departments did it anyway.
Okay.
And that's the biggest part of the increase. Once you take that out, it's pretty much a level funded budget. Town Hall has a 17% increase, I believe it is, yes, 17%. Again, significant, you know, it's a good number. There's some reasons for it. Part of it is the telephone is going up by 4,000, that's the My Telephone system.
Mitel, yeah.
Doesn't that number show negative 17%?
It does. That's because the computer services is being moved to Board of Selectmen. I wanted to point out the big changes. You're right, I said positive, you're right, it is negative. But it's just that they're making a lot of changes that I think we're gonna have to wait till they get done with them before we worry too much about the budget, because they're moving the computer services, they're moving the phone system. They're talking about moving all the office supplies, sort of centralizing things to maybe be more efficient.
Okay.
So I think this budget is gonna change dramatically from where it's at. Would you agree, Lucy? I mean,
It could,
you're doing a lot
It
to it.
could.
If you follow through on all the things you talked about.
right.
Treasurer collector, the big things here, and again, I don't think we need to spend time on it, but we are, I had asked some questions last week of Wendy. She's the lady, have you met her? Or nice lady, you should come in and meet her. Nice.
What'd she do?
She's the town clerk, or town collector, I'm sorry. town
Treasurer.
collector, Treasurer collector.
I have not met her.
Okay. We have the fire truck, that's what's highlighted up here, that results in all the money. Because we only got the 1 year financing on it, because the town didn't have the proper bonding and things like that.
The 3 years. of history.
We have to pay $40,000 in interest. I traded a bunch of emails with her over the last week or so, saying that I really think we should pay whatever principal the intent was to pay based on the increase in the tax rate. You know, whatever we were gonna pay, we should reduce the principal now, otherwise, when we get out to year 10, when everyone in town thinks this is gonna be paid off, there's gonna be a balance.
Right.
So she sent a letter out yesterday, I saw her on that, Lucy, she gave me a
She
copy
did,
of it.
yes.
So I just think that's something that we really want to keep a close eye on, is because we do not want to get into a situation where we just pay the interest for a couple of years because, quote, it saves us money on the principal, and then have to go back to the town meeting and say, oh, by the way, we need another $150,000 to pay off the principal because we just didn't pay it when we could.
It's not apples to apples, but it's
No,
like paying
so I
off the
think
minimum
that's-
payment on your credit card.
Right.
It's never a good idea.
No, never exactly good way to put it, yeah.
Mike had a question, possibly.
I'm sorry, but
How many years can you see right there on the budget?
hang on, let me get back to it. Which one,
Well, if you went to mine, because we had that year where we went to special town meeting.
we got 3 years of history, if that's what you're asking, 21, 22, and 23
Could you pull it up, quick?
for,
The tree warden?
you're the next one up.
Okay, never mind,
It's
sorry.
all alphabetical, so you're
It's coming.
you're right after the town hall. That's the next one I was gonna hit.
Delete it, 7:30.
Okay, we'll maybe save your stuff and maybe get the other next week or the week after, because yeah, here's your 5 year history, Mike, or 3 year history, I'm sorry.
So I guess it's.
It shows in
The second column, we added,
22, you spent $30,000.
yeah,
That's the one you're talking about?
yeah, the board of selectmen added 20,000
Mhm.
at special
Mhm.
town meeting in October.
Mhm.
And that doesn't really show it there, but in the town report, in the accountant's report, it shows a minus 9,900.
Hmm.
And it shows, it doesn't match any of the numbers I have. Because I show returning $647 at the end of June 30th. And I showed it all to Dawn this spring, and he's never gotten back to me, but I don't understand what went on with the accounting and how it was added in and taken out, and all I'm seeing is a negative that looks like I negative spent $9,900.
I can't answer that, Mike, something to look into.
So I guess when they do the audit,
They would look at something like that.
can you ask, because it should have been roughly $650 of the cutting
Surplus.
budget surplus back to the general fund, and then whatever the balance of the police detail money was back to the,
Okay.
but it, and I may be
year was
reading it,
22?
I may be reading it wrong, I don't know, but I couldn't, like I say, I showed it to Dawn, and I couldn't make head nor tails out of where those numbers came from.
I had a similar question. I went back and looked at some of the annual town reports. And if you look at the annual town reports and then look at the accountant budget year-end numbers and everything, there's a lot of discrepancies.
Well, the Alden Fund is one that showed $150,000 from year to year. It's negative.
Yeah, no, I started
I
looking
showed
at
that
some
to
of them.
Don and
Maybe not trust the annual report data because I found a number of places where it didn't balance with what the accountants would say the numbers are. But anyway, that's a topic we're not gonna solve tonight, but that's the point. Let's move on. Let's talk about that.
FY 22, that was when Tom Wilson was still working, right?
Yeah.
Veterans agent, almost done, Corey. I know you gotta run. Veterans agent, this one just caught my eye. That's the only reason it's in orange. He is asking for a $2,100 increase in veterans benefits, which I probably would support. The reason I marked this is this I thought was the best example I saw of what we need to be thinking about. We budgeted every year fairly heavily for this particular line item, the veterans benefits expenses. And it averages about $1,700 a year for the last 3 years, even though we budget over 10,000 each year. So that money just sits there, it's not spent, it gets turned back in. So there's nothing wrong is happening, except to me, it's not good budgeting. So that's why I guess this is something we were talking about earlier, Corey, where just, when you look at it, it's like, okay, why do we approve a budget asking for $11,000, $10,000 when you only spend $1,700 every year?
That's a tough line item.
It is.
because
No, I know. There's
It
a-
depends on
Depends
how
on the
many
client.
people that are encumbering benefits.
But in the
And
last 3 years, that's how much people have encumbered. That's how much has been spent on people that encumber benefit. Is it really gonna go up times a factor of 4 in 1 year?
again, I mean, one year you might have only one person to take care of it, next year it could be having 6 or 8. You really don't know. And
But
on
again,
top of
can't
that,
you-
75% of that money eventually comes back to the town. and
Well, that's
gets
what I'm saying,
reimbursed.
but he said same thing, Paul. If that 75% that came back, which in this case would be $8,000, you maybe could have used that to put windows in the library. But we didn't do that because we had the money going to
Yeah.
somewhere we knew it was. And I'm just saying that every year, if you keep doing the same thing, you should not keep getting the budget money just in case something happens. You can always come back. I mean, you told me this. You said that they can always go back to the Board of Selectmen, ask for a special town meeting number. You can go to the Finance Committee and ask for something from the reserve if there's an issue like that. But it really does put a lock on that money. So you can't use it, for the senior center for something that they want. Because you say, well, we got $8,000 we know isn't gonna be spent, but we're gonna keep it in his budget. So it can't be moved over to the senior center budget. So I'm just saying that I think someone has to think about those things. We all need to think about them as we put it together. I'm not advocating that this is wrong.
Well,
I think they do a fantastic job. I mean, it's a very important job.
Like
But
I said, that is a hard line item to try and
it
forecast.
is, it's one of the harder ones, but for 3 years in a row, it's been almost exactly the same. So if it changed dramatically, I think the Board of Selectmen, and I certainly think the Finance Committee would say, we'll work with you. What's the number that you need? We'll do something about it. But instead, we just keep putting that bucket full of $10,000 and it sits there year after year and doesn't get the benefit of being used somewhere where it's maybe needed. That's the only point I'm trying to make. And the whole thing's a hard decision because they're used to seeing this be $10,000 or $13,000. And suddenly if you tell them it's gonna be 5,000, they're gonna be cussed. And I know that, but. Choose it, Greenways, Lucy, are you even gonna have a budget for that? Isn't that gonna be a donation again?
It's a donation.
It'll be a
Yes,
town
I
meeting,
think
right?
they asked for $1,200-$1,300 this year. They will get their $1,000.
But it'll be at the town meeting, we'll do it, because
Yep.
we agreed a couple of years ago, I think, Paul, you were still chairman then, that because it's a donation, it really shouldn't be in the budget, it should be voted on by the
Right.
citizens, that they want to make a donation,
Right,
that we should be recommending as part of the budget. So I didn't do anything with that, I didn't even have
It's
the
usually a separate article.
separate article, exactly.
I won't ask why tonight. I'll wait till town meeting.
Um, Last one is zoning board of appeals. Again, a $50 increase, I mean, I have no issues with it.
No
You
issues.
can imagine. So that's what we have for the proposed budget. It's missing some salaries. We know some other salaries are gonna be adjusted.
Missing the school.
Well, yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
talking the town budget. Just on the town budget,
Yeah.
Steve, I ran some calculations And I came up with, it was right around a 9% increase. I won't bother pulling it all up. I know Corey's got to be out of here by 7:30 for a commitment. I think we have our work cut out for us as the finance committee. A lot of the changes that are taking place are very good changes. You can argue how needed are they today versus tomorrow, but they're positive changes for the town. But they also are expensive. You know, we're spending, again, if we spend, again, I think we're probably with the salary stuff looking more at a 12 to 13% increase over last year. Paul, do you recall the biggest increase maybe you went through was the finance committee?
No.
And it was 2 or 3% for most
I
I
remember a couple of years when we actually had to cut budgets,
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
and that's a real miserable
I mean,
task.
I think that the 4 years or so when you were the chairman, when I was there, I don't think we were ever more than 2 or 3% for the town. The school was different, you know, that's a different animal, and I understand that. But to suddenly say we're gonna have a 12, 13, or 15% increase in the town budget, a lot of it is justified. The question is, the timing of it is does it all gonna happen, and how's it gonna play out when we present this budget to the citizens of the town?
Now that you've gone through all the budget requests, did you want to cover the existing ones that are over that were identified?
Well, it's 7:28, so you gotta be out of here at 7:30.
How did you-
I got it in my email. Which email did you say it was in? The date, you told
That
me.
was 2.5 or 2.6?
2.3, Microsoft Teams, Corey Maribel, Corey.
So I'm on the FY 24 tab.
Oh, I didn't pull that up. I thought when you said the email, I thought it was,
You have the budget also through the SharePoint,
Yeah.
I think, right?
I do.
It was just a couple. I think there were maybe 12 that were over, I didn't know. Most of them, they were over on the line item, but the department was not over. I think if you want to shorten it up, the only one to talk about was Board of Assessors, what the cylindrical inspections was.
Cyclical?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Sorry, zoom in. The cyclical inspections, they were 680 over. And all the others.
See it in the SharePoint site.
No, that's in your email, but
Oh, you're looking back in the email. Okay. Why don't we hold it to the next meeting? It's not on the agenda, because I didn't know if you were gonna have it ready, but I'll look at it in the morning.
Okay.
Steve, you have anything else?
No, you can disconnect your laptop though.
Oh, there you go. The only thing I have remaining then on the agenda is to approve the January 3rd minutes.
did we do new business?
No, we did not do business. Do you have new business?
I
Or old
just,
business?
I just wanted to make sure that
I
the,
forgot, oh, you're right.
yeah, I just want to make sure the FinCom was paying attention to the NYCHA issues that they're having there. I don't think anyone
Yep.
ever, I don't think anyone ever expected millions of dollars to go missing from contracts under $10,000 and 70 people arrested down at the New York City Housing
I mean, I
Authority.
saw it on the news. I
Yeah, it's-
haven't been obsessed with knowing much about it. But I saw it on the
It's a
headline.
fascinating case study in how people can take very small amounts of money repeatedly over 30, 20 years. Do you remember, Steve, 20 years?
Yeah, it was 20 years.
I think
It's
it was
ridiculous.
20.
A long, long period of time.
Unbelievable.
So I think that we should all make sure we're abreast
Yeah,
of
and
it.
these are all NGOs, right? So it's ridiculous.
Yeah, also I've seen, I saw it a couple times on the news and I said, okay, there's people that I think skim off budgets in a lot of places more often than any of us realize. You know, be it taking
It's way worse now.
office supplies home or stuff for the kids
No.
that they need for school home or whatever, maybe there's a lot of stuff that gets misappropriated.
It's way worse now with what's going on with our border. So
Yeah, Any other new business?
No,
Anyone have any old business? Nope.
everybody's great.
Everybody's great. I do want to approve the meeting minutes from the 3rd, so I would make a motion of approval from FinCom minutes from January 3rd.
You emailed those out, didn't you?
You sent me back a note that you were okay with them. Actually, you had one correction that I didn't put in.
Okay.
Steve, were you good with them?
I'm good and I'll second it.
Can I get a second? I got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
All right, minutes are approved. We will adjourn at 7:32.
stopping the recording.
Thanks, Steve. I'll catch up with you.